Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Okay, okay, okay. Uh, Let me try presenting my screen. Can any one of you present? I had uploaded it in Linbase. Okay? Ashwati? Hello, Ashwati? I had uploaded this module 5 in Linbase. Can you just present it? Okay. Hello. So today we will be going on to module 5. So before going on to module 5, let us recall what we have studied in module 4. Okay, can you hear me? Abhilash, can you hear me? Hello? Okay, Fabina. Okay. So in module 4, we have studied one approach called the super loop based task execution model. Hope you remember the super loop based task execution model. Do you remember it? We had studied that there is an infinite loop. We had written it in while one loop, and we called it as an infinite loop or a super loop. And inside this loop, we had several tasks listed one after the other. And the task that is written first will be executed first, and then the task that is written below the task 1, task 2 will be executed next, and so on until all tasks inside that loop has been completed. So all tasks that are listed inside the loop will be completed, and here these tasks are repeated at regular intervals, and the task execution is non-real time. That is, once the task execution begins, there is no interference from outside. Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Okay. So we were discussing about super loop approach, which we studied in last module. So inside the loop, we have several tasks, and these tasks are executed one after the other till the end of loop is reached. And once the last task is executed, again the loop will come. It will loop to the topmost task, and the task from beginning, from task 1 to task n, will be executed. And these tasks are executed at regular intervals, and the task execution is non-real time. So non-real time means it will not respond to any external events. Only these tasks that are listed inside the loop will be executed, and this will go on repeating. So as the number of tasks inside the loop increases, the time interval at which the task gets serviced also increases. That is, if there are 100 tasks inside the loop, task task 1 will get its chance only after the 100th task has been executed. All other tasks has been executed. So as the number of tasks increases, the time interval to execute for a task also increases. Okay. So if some task involves waiting for external events or some IO device usage, then the task execution time further increases based on the waiting time consumed by the task. So yes. Should it's visible? Yes. So this is more okay. First page. Please take the first page. First page, Ashwini. This is third or fourth page, I think. Okay, thank you. So before going on to this module 5, I was speaking about about module 4, the technique that we studied in module 4, that is super loop approach. The thing is, super loop approach is not real time. That is, there is nobody can interact in between and get a response from the system. Here in fifth module, we are going to deal with tasks that are real time. That is, it will respond to real time inputs and it will give us the result as we interact with the system. So there is a human in the loop for real-time systems, whereas for non-real-time systems, there is no human in the loop. In super loop approach, I think we had mentioned this point, there is no human in the loop for super loop approach. Whereas in real-time systems, there is a human in the loop. He can give an input in between and he will get the result. So when compared to super loop model, we are going on to another model which will help us to interact with the system in real time. Super loop doesn't allow human beings, external users or entities to interact in real time, whereas real time operating systems, they allow us to interact in real time. So in super loop model, the priority in which the task is to be executed is fixed and it is determined by the order in which the tasks are placed inside the loop. So now there will be several tasks inside the loop and the order in which the tasks are executed is always fixed. That is, task 1 will be executed first always, followed by task 2 and so on till task n. Finally, when task n has been completed, again it will come back to task 1. So the order in which the tasks are executed is always fixed in super loop approach, whereas in real-time systems, the task can take any order based on its priority. So examples we studied in super loop approach were electronic toys, video games, etc. And here the response time is acceptable, or the delay in the response is acceptable, and it will not create any issues or hazards to the system in super loop approach. If we are dealing with such applications, then we go for super loop approach because they are simple applications where the task priority is fixed and it is executed one after the other. So, whereas applications that require time-critical response to tasks or events, they can be addressed in embedded applications by considering the following needs. So, that is what we are discussing in this module. Those applications that require real-time response to tasks or events, they can be addressed in embedded applications by considering certain needs. Now, what are the considerations to be taken so that systems can respond in real time? So these are the considerations listed here, as you can see in the screen. First is you should assign priority to tasks and execute high priority tasks when it's ready to execute. The in super loop approach, all priorities are fixed, and even if one task is ready to execute, it has to wait till its turn comes. Whereas here, if there is a high priority task ready to be executed, then the currently running task, which is of a lower priority task, will be preempted and the high priority task will be executed. That happens in real-time systems. Then next is dynamically change the priority of the task if required on a need basis. Certain tasks may have achieved greater priority at certain points of time, and at such points, the task should be given higher priority and it should be executed. Then there is a need for scheduling task executions based on priority. So always tasks in real-time systems, they are executed based on its priority. And there is context switching or between the tasks, and whenever there is a wait for an IO operation, this task should be temporarily switched off, and then it should be removed from the ready queue, and the next higher priority task should be executed. So these are the considerations that should be taken in order to make the applications time critical. That is, in order to respond to real time, these are the four considerations that should be taken. So in real-time systems, in fifth module, we deal with how we can make the task, how these priority can be set, how task scheduling or task execution is done in real-time operating systems. So in this module, we deal with real-time operating systems, and real-time operating systems, they often deal with task scheduling based on task priorities, and also how the context switching or task scheduling process, what are the different techniques used for task scheduling in real-time systems. So we have to study what is real-time system, the components are real-time OS services. Then we have to study the interrupt handling mechanism in RTOS. Then the last section we have to study the various scheduling mechanisms in RTOS. So these are the three sections that we deal with in module 5. That is, you have to study operating system basis, and next we have to study the interrupt handling mechanisms in RTOS. Namely, there are 3 interrupt handling mechanisms in RTOS, and then the last section we have to study the scheduling techniques. And you have studied round robin scheduling technique and all. So apart from round robin, we have several other techniques. We have to study that also. Okay, so these are the topics that we will cover in fifth module. First, we study the operating system basics. So, Ashwini, can you go to the next page? Okay. So, what is an OS? As you studied an operating system, you might know what operating system is. I'm just going through what OS is, so that you will remember what we had studied in S4, I think, 4th semester. So what is OS? Do you know what OS is? What is an operating system? Can anyone say what an operating system is? In this module, we are going to deal with real-time operating system. Okay, so what is an operating system? Can anyone give an example of a real-time operating system? Have you heard of any real-time operating systems? Name of any one real-time operating system? So there is one operating system. There are many operating systems, and one is QNX. QNX. Letters Q, N, and X. QNX is one real-time operating system. Then another operating system is VX. V suffix X works. WORKS. VX works is another real-time operating system. And there is another operating system, real-time operating system called WinCE, WIN, Windows WinCE. So these are the most commonly used. Then another operating system is Micro C OS. Now that is mentioned in your syllabus as a case study, Micro C OS. So these are the most commonly used real-time operating systems. So we have to study what are the functions of this real-time operating system, then how interrupt handling is done in real-time operating system, and how scheduling is done in real-time operating system. So we have to cover 3 sections. So what are the 3 sections that we should cover in this module? Can anyone say? Can anyone just type in the chat box? What are the three sections that we have to study in module 5? Anyone? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, Amrita. So what are the three sections that we should cover in module 5? Nobody is responding. This is a lengthy module, I have to go fast. First, we will study the basics of real-time operating system, or in general operating system first, and then we go to real-time operating system. And the next section we deal with interrupt handling in real-time operating systems, and the third section we deal with task scheduling in real-time systems. So now I'm going to the first section, the OS basics. So this OS, in general, I'm saying about the OS. That is, OS acts as a bridge between the user application of tasks and the underlying system resources through a set of system functionalities and services. That is, it acts as an extended machine or a virtual machine. We call it as an extended machine, a machine that runs on top of the real hardware and hiding all the hardware details from us and providing us all the services to work comfortably with the system. So it is a program operating system. It is the program that controls the entire functioning of the system, and it provides us a user-friendly interface to use all the functionalities, underlying functionalities, and help us to work comfortably. So we are just seeing a machine on top of another machine. So it acts as an extended machine or a virtual machine. Then it acts as a resource manager. The resource manager means that this operating system, it controls all the devices, all the programs that are inside the system, and so it has to manage the devices all which are connected, including the CPU. There are several processes running in our system, and if there is only a single CPU, then the CPU must be allotted to all the processes in a time. For which we had studied the scheduling process and all. So the resource should be managed, and including the devices, IO devices, it should be given properly in a timely manner to the processes running inside the system. So it acts as a resource manager. Resources include CPU, memory, then IO devices, etc. And managing all the resources inside the system efficiently and correctly is one of the functionalities of operating system. So, in general, if someone asks you what are the primary functions of an OS, then you have to remember these 2 points. That is, it acts as an extended machine or a virtual machine, first point. Second, it acts as a resource manager. So these 2 points should come to your mind as a computer science student when you think of OS. It acts as an extended machine or a virtual machine, first of all, and then it acts as a resource manager. These are the two main functionalities of OS. Now we are going to the goals of OS. What does OS strive to achieve? And that is the OS, we call it as OS goals. So the first is perfection. That is, if there are multiple processes running in our system, it should work perfectly well to achieve or to complete all the processes that are being loaded into the memory. That is perfection. Then it should be correct. It should give the correct results. Then portability. That is, applications on one operating system should run even on another operating system. Then interoperability means operating several devices in a network, then providing common set of interfaces for the system. So there are several devices communicating with the system. All these devices should be given proper interfaces to communicate with each other. Then orderly access and control when managing processes. Each process should be allocated a specific period of time, or based on its priority, some scheduling techniques should be adopted by the operating system. So these are the goals which the operating system attains, wants to achieve. And I will repeat it once more. That is, one is perfection, Next is correctness. Third is portability. Fourth is interoperability. And fifth is providing common set of interface for the system. And sixth is orderly access and control when managing processes. So to achieve these goals, these goals, the operating system, it will try to attain the following. That is, its aim is, these goals aim to achieve the following things. That is, facilitating easy sharing of resources as per schedule and allocation. So to achieve these goals, it should provide some mechanism for sharing resources. Then it should provide some mechanisms by which each application running within the system gets the system hardware, that is facilitating easy implementation of application program for a given system hardware. Then optimally scheduling the processes, that is it should schedule processes. Then fourth one is it should maximize the system performance by allowing the processes to share the resources. Then fifth one is providing management function, that is it should manage all the processes, memory and devices, IO devices, etc. running in the system. Then it should provide management and organization function for the various devices, files, virtual devices and IOs. Then it should provide interfacing and management function for network protocols and networking. And also it should provide portability of applications on different hardware architecture. And finally, it should also provide interoperability between different devices. Okay, interoperability of application on different networks. And it should provide a common set of interfaces that integrates various devices together. So these are all the common things that we find in a system. All these activities or all these functionalities are to be coordinated by the operating system, and the operating system coordinates all these activities to achieve the goals that we have mentioned earlier. So these are the main functionalities, these are the main goals of the operating system. So this is just an introduction to what an operating system is, what are the goals of an operating system, and to achieve those goals, it will do all these tasks. Okay. Is it clear? These are all theory points. You have to study each and every point, and by heart, you might have studied everything in the operating system. So next we are going to the operating system architecture. A general overview of an operating system architecture. Okay, the basic components that make up an operating system. So you have three levels as you see in the figure. Hope you can see the figure. Operating system architecture. Can you see the figure? Hello, can you see the figure? Okay, okay, Anisha. So what is the topmost layer? What is the topmost layer? What is there in the topmost layer? Anyone? You said you can see the screen, so can you read what is there? Yeah, user applications run in the topmost layer. Then the next layer. What is in the next layer? Anyone, please? What is in the next layer? Okay, kernel services, or in the side I have mentioned with an arrow. Isn't it basic OS services? Can you see that arrow by the side? Basic OS services, or you can call it as kernel services. Okay, is it clear? Then the last layer, what is in the last layer? Last layer. Anyone? So yes, it is the underlying hardware. So this shows the different levels of interaction between an end user application and the lowermost layer, that is the hardware. In between the user application and the hardware lies the operating system. So this operating system, it hides the hardware details from the user through the user application, and we just interact with the applications that run on our system, isn't it? We are using Google Meet, etc. But for the connectivity details, we are not bothered about how this is getting connected and what are the devices connected to this system. There are so many IP addresses now connected to the system, all are in internet. And hello, can you hear me? Okay. So we are not bothered about what is going on behind. We are just using the application Google Meet, isn't it? And this application helps us to use several services provided by this OS, and we communicate with the hardware devices, but we are not knowing how we are communicating, and that is the interface that OS gives us, acts as an interface to the end user, and it provides us all the necessary details by hiding the underlying details. So the first layer is the user application, and the user application interacts with these OS services. That is why there are multiple arrows shown, and it is called the application program interface, or APIs. The user applications interact with the OS, and that interface between the user application and the operating system services is called APIs, or application programming interfaces. And the OS, in turn, it communicates with the underlying hardware through small programs called device drivers, or we call it as the device driver interface. Okay, is it clear? So these are the three layers in the basic architecture of an operating system. That is, on the topmost layer, we load in the user applications, and these user applications allows an end user to communicate with the system, and these applications directly interact with the OS services, and there are several OS services that are involved while a system is functioning, and these OS services, they directly communicate with the hardware, underlying hardware, using device driver interface. So this is the common architecture that we describe in when we discuss about the basic components that make up an operating system. So now let us see what is there in the basic services. What are the basic OS services? First of all, in that figure, in the you can see the middle level showing the basic OS services, and the first service that is listed is memory management. How this operating system manages memory. So here in this context, this memory refers to volatile memory, where processes are loaded along with its variables and shared data. We are for both for real-time operating systems as well as for normal operating systems. We need memory to function, and this memory is the volatile memory, or ROM, where processes are loaded, and along with these processes, it has to access certain shared data, variables, etc. And the memory management unit of the kernel is responsible for keeping track of which part of the memory is currently used by which process. You might have studied about memory management unit, or MMU, isn't it? In operating system, you might have studied about memory management unit, MMU. MMU is responsible for keeping track of the memory, which part of the memory is currently used by which process, and also allocating and deallocating memory on a need basis. That is, which part of the memory is currently in use, which part of the memory is free. And if I want to load a particular process into memory, and if there is not enough space in memory, then some process which is temporary, which has not been used for a long time, should be swapped out of memory. And there you might have studied about page replacement algorithms and all, isn't it? These page replacement, what is page replacement algorithm? What is page replacement algorithm? Have you heard of page replacement algorithms? Can you name any one of those algorithms? Can you name any one-page replacement algorithm? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Amrita? Anushri? Oh, okay. You have heard of page replacement algorithm. And what is page replacement algorithm? And do you remember any one-page replacement algorithm? Yes, yes. LRU. What is LRU? What is the expansion? What is the expansion? Yes, yes, very good. Least recently used page replacement algorithm. So there are several other algorithms, and this least recently used algorithm, it will swap out a process which has been least used, and so that it will make a room for the process that we have to swap in. And least recently used because the operating concept is that the one that is least recently used has less chance of being referenced again. So we are going to swap that one and provide space for a new process. So it is the memory management unit that keeps track of which part of the memory is in use and allocating and deallocating memory on a need basis. So that is the first function, the first service that operating system, one of the service that operating system provides. So in that block, in the middle block, the first function, that basic service that was listed is memory management. Now going on to the second service provided by the OS is process management. Now what is process management? Process management deals with managing processes that run inside the system, and it includes setting up the memory space for processes and loading the processes code into memory space, then allocating system resources to each process, then scheduling and managing process execution. Here comes the scheduling algorithms. There we before we reference to the page replacement algorithms, in this section we have to deal with the scheduling algorithms, and then setting up and managing the PCB. PCB here refers to the process control block, and process control block is associated with each process running in the system. Whenever we are swapping in and swapping out processes, it is the PCB that is pushed into the stack. Then the next is inter-process communication and synchronization. When several processes are running in the system, these processes might access certain variables in other processes. So there should be there is inter-process communication, and when there is inter-process communication, or when these processes are trying to access a shared resource, then there should be synchronization among these processes. Then process termination, deletion, etc. are all managed by the operating system. So these are the services that operating system, second, this is one of the services, that is process management is another service provided by the operating system. So we have discussed two basic services now. One is memory management, which should be done by the operating system, and second is the process management, another basic service that is done by the operating system. Next is the time management. Time management, it is the clock. Now, in the system, there is a clock called the system clock. Okay, there is a clock in the system called system clock, and at each tick of this clock, there is an interrupt arriving in the system. Okay, okay. So, did you understand what I had said so far? We had discussed, we had just given an, I had just given an introduction to what an operating system is, what is the architecture, basic architecture, these functionalities, roles, etc. You had studied in operating system, but just we are going through it because there is a university question based on this. What are the basic OS services? It is a university question, that's why I'm going through this. Okay, is it clear? Is it clear to you? Okay, then we'll continue with the other services in the next class. Please take your attendance. Number 1. Okay, 2. Abhinav. Number 5. 6, 7, Arjun, okay, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, Midlaj, 16, absent, 17, 18, 20, 22, number 22. Sharat P. number 22. Number 22. Number 23. Sarga. Number 23. Okay. Number 24. Number 26. Number 27. Number 28. Number 29. Amrita 30. 31 Ashwadi. Then 32. Digna. 33. Harita. Okay. 30. Number 3. Amal Santosh. Okay, number 16 and 22, are you present? Number 16, Midilaj. Okay, and number 22?
22% ma'am.
Number 22, okay, so all are present. Okay, thank you.